if you want to take money from your IUL, you can take it from the life insurance company and not take it from your actual cash value accumulation. Hey, what's up everybody? My name is Ryan and I am a licensed life insurance agent and a financial professional. And today I'm going to be talking to you about how to look at your IUL and know if it is properly structured or not. So the first thing you want to look at is to see if your policy is a minimum non-MEC IUL, or I kind of call it a high cash value IUL. Personally, the way that I think that IULs should be structured is for cash value purposes and not really for death benefit purposes. Because if you're just simply trying to get a death benefit, you could just get term life for much cheaper versus getting an IUL for the death benefit. I know that it's permanent, but it is very expensive. So if you are looking to just get life coverage, the IUL isn't really meant for that. It's more so meant for cash value accumulation. And the reason why I say this is because for the most or the highest cash value gains with an IUL, you want the lowest death benefit possible, or in the more technical terms, a minimum non-MEC death benefit, which simply put means that we are giving you the smallest amount of death benefit possible while still keeping your IUL tax-free. Just because there are laws that are in place that say you have to have a certain amount of death benefit to have it still be considered life insurance. Otherwise, if it has too low of a death benefit, then what's going to happen is that it's going to become a modified endowment contract, aka that little dash non-MEC. MEC stands for modified endowment contract. All that means is that your policy is now no longer considered life insurance, it's considered an investment now. So it's going to be taxed and penalized as an investment, not life insurance. And that's a huge reason why people throw their money into an IUL, is because they want all of the tax sheltering benefits of it. And so the way that you can look at this is by simply just asking your agent, hey, is this the minimum non-MEC death benefit? And they could potentially lie to you. I know that I have worked with clients where they present an illustration to me and they're just kind of shopping around and they're like, hey, this is what I have. They said that this is the lowest death benefit that I can go with. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, so you're putting $200 a month into this and your death benefit's at $500,000 and they're saying that this is the lowest that you can have? That's just a straight out lie. The simplest and fastest way to be able to determine whether or not your specific IUL is a minimum non-MEC, just to book a really quick appointment with me. Literally, you can put in the notes, hey, I already have an IUL. I just simply want to know if mine is or is not. What I'll do is I'll plug in your age, the amount of money that you're putting in per month, and then calculate and see what the minimum non-MEC death benefit is and see if it's higher or lower than what you currently have right now. It's really hard to be able to look at the illustration and determine that, just because most illustrations don't have any verbiage in the illustration itself that says like minimum non-MEC, yes or no. It's not that simple. You have to like do a lot of math and stuff. It's just a lot easier just to find another agent and say, hey, I need you to run my age, the amount of money I'm going to be putting in per month, and run it as a minimum non-MEC and see what the death benefit number comes out to. If it comes out to $105,000 and your death benefit's $250,000, you know for a fact you do not have a minimum non-MEC IUL, which is totally fine because you can just do a 1035 rollover exchange, literally just roll your money out of that IUL into a new one with a lower death benefit, because again, if you still don't quite understand why you want a lower death benefit with the IUL, it's because the more death benefit you have, the more life insurance you have, which means the more life insurance you're going to be charged for every month or every year. What we want to do is we want to minimize those fees to the point where the fees are so low that the interest that your policy is accruing every single year is covering the fees, and there's still a high surplus of interest left over that's getting credited into your cash value. And so the lower the death benefit, the lower the fees, essentially. And if we can lower your fees, then obviously that's going to help with the cash value accumulation of your IUL. Another thing to look at when you're looking at your illustration is to make sure that the death benefit increasing option or the death benefit option is not increasing in all years, definitely not level in all years. You want to make sure that it's an optimal switch. And what that means is that basically there's like an AI computer or some sort of tracking system that the life insurance company has to where they're measuring how much money and how frequently you're putting money into the policy. And what they're going to do is either increase it or change it to level based on how you're funding the policy. If I was funding my policy at, let's just say, $500 a month, but I end up making a lot more money in my job, I'm starting to put in $1,200 a month into it now, plus, maybe I get quarterly bonuses, so I'm throwing like 10 grand in there every quarter, then it's going to make sure it's going to switch it to increasing, because the death benefit and the amount of money you have in cash value have to rise up together at the same time to avoid your policy mecking. If you stop funding it, or if you lower your payments from like $700 to maybe like $200, then we don't want that death benefit to keep rising and rising and rising and rising, but your premium is growing at a much slower rate, because then what that's going to do is eventually the death benefit is going to get too high and you're going to start paying a much larger number in terms of your fees for the cost of insurance, and the policy is not going to perform very well. So if you lower your premiums, or if you have to skip a few months or something just because you're going through tough times, basically the tracking system is going to notice and pick up on that right away and be like, whoa, okay, this person went from paying $750 a month, they dropped it all the way down to $200. We want to basically press the brakes on the death benefit and let's switch it to level. So now the death benefit's not going to move anymore, and it's basically going to wait for you and allow you to start paying more money into the policy until you get to the point where it makes sense for your growth to switch back to increasing. Then it'll switch back to increasing, and now you're kind of growing up together at the same time. I hope that makes sense. The other thing to look out for is to make sure that you communicate to your agent that you want to retire at a specific age. And at that specific age, that premiums stop. So if I'm gonna retire at age 65, I don't want to continue to still have to be paying $500 a month at age 66 and 67 and 68. You want your premiums to end at the year that you retire. Make sure that you check on that. You don't want premiums to go all the way till your age 120 years old. That's not gonna work out for you. You also need to make sure that you are only putting money into a specific type of IUL. And those things that you need to look out for is an IUL that offers alternative loans. That means that if you want to take money from your IUL, you can take it from the life insurance company and not take it from your actual cash value accumulation account, because you don't really want to touch that money. You want to keep that money in there and continue to have your money accruing interest. If you need the money, instead of touching your money inside of your IUL, you just take the life insurance carrier's money. And so you're leveraging the life insurance carrier to spend the same dollar twice. If the specific IUL does not have alternative loans, you will not be able to do this. Therefore, it's not a good IUL. I would not recommend going with that type of IUL. You also want to make sure that the IUL that you choose has no cap. They will not put a cap on the amount of interest that you're able to make in 1 year. You also want to make sure that there's no spreads either. Basically what a spread is that, let's just say for example, the stock market has to do 7.5% or better for you to earn interest. If it doesn't do 7.5% or better, then you won't get paid any interest. That's a horrible strategy. Don't ever pick an IUL that has that, just because it's just not ideal for growth at all. Also make sure that when you're looking at your years, especially the first 5 years, that under the cash surrender value, there's no zeros. If there's zeros there, that's a pretty high indicator that's probably not a minimum non-MEC, and the fees are so high that you have $0 liquid in those first 5 years, 2 years, or even the first year. And look at age 100 and see if there are numbers there, or if it says lapse. If it says lapse anytime before age 100, it's not a good policy. Basically, the policy self-destructs itself and closes itself out before age 100. And those are some major things to look at before you move forward or before you continue with an IUL. Those are basically non-negotiables. If your IUL doesn't pass any of these tests, it's not a good one. Don't move forward with it.